Hi and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Karel van Heulen and I'm joined here today by Didier Rosé. Today we are incredibly excited to bring you a webinar about our new smart audio capabilities. But before we dive in, just a little housekeeping. First off, let us know if you can see the presentation and if you can hear us. Just give us a quick heads up in the chat on the right side of your screen. Great. I'll briefly take you through the interface of our webinar so you feel right at home. So on the left side, you'll see our presentation and you can use the button in the middle to go full screen. On the right side, you see three buttons. There's four buttons. We have a fifth one so we can see a full list of all participants. You can chat with us and give us feedback with the last button. The second last button is used for specific questions. So if you have a question, please type it here. Other participants can upvote answers, and this allows us to see what the most important topics are. And we'll go through your questions at the end of the presentation. So that's it. The presentation will take around half an hour, give or take. Our goal is to give you a short presentation of around 20 minutes first, and then we'll take out another 10 minutes to answer your questions. Okay, so now without further ado, I'll turn the presentation over to Didier Rosé.
Hi everyone, welcome. Very glad to see so many of you again on our webinar. Today we want to speak about audio capabilities. Obviously, audio has been the cornerstone of our solutions for years and years and years. But as we all know, last period of time, quite a bit of changes have been applied. So hybrid is getting very important. And that's also why we take a next step in providing solutions to increase and enhance our intelligibility and also offer integrators with a tool set to also incorporate our solutions in a better way with their DSP designs. So let's switch to the presentation and let's have a look on what we have done in the last couple of months. As mentioned, it's all about hearing and being heard. The COVID situation also dramatically changed the landscape in terms of hybrid meetings, and we believe that hybrid meetings, and I think we all agree, are here to stay. Now, in order to offer some more flexibility on how conference rooms are designed in general, we have applied those new functionalities. And it's also, as I mentioned already before, simplifying integrations towards DSP designs in general. A little bit an overview of the things that we have done and that we will be discussing here in more detail. It's about providing dynamic mix minus in our solution. So in order to optimize intelligibility for both in-room and hybrid use cases, we have implemented that mix minus on the solution. And moreover, we also implemented gain sharing in the application as well. So that's it for things that are incorporated into the Plexus architecture. And then besides that, we've also added two new routing modes. One of the routing modes is called DSP mode, and that's basically releasing our microphones to Dante channels and vice versa, giving the flexibility to also create individual loudspeaker channels and do audio processing in the DSP. And then next to that, again, with the whole hybrid conferencing mode, we also added a specific mode in order to give some flexibility in order to couple to soft codec or also our own Confero hybrid solution. Now let's have a look on what traditionally a push-to-talk system provides. So basically you have the microphone on the one hand, you have a microphone button, and then obviously the loudspeaker. Now in the solutions out there, basically when a microphone button is being pressed, the microphone gets active, depending on the mode, obviously, and then the loudspeaker of that same unit is muted. So no sound is produced there on that individual station. So that means if you have a couple of stations here, a couple of units, you have 3 microphones open. So imagine a situation where it's only a small room. That means that the audio produced by the conferencing solution would only come out of 2 of the loudspeakers of the individual units. So that's something that we worked on to enhance, and basically what we do now is that we create that same situation where the loudspeaker of those active microphones or the active open microphones will also have a loudspeaker sound in the units. So dynamically we create mix-minus channels that are provided to the open microphones as such. So we get the dynamic mix-minus with a mix of everything without its own signal. It's not done on the station itself, but it's really dynamically creating individual loudspeaker channels, and those are being put on the Plixis network from that point in time. Now, why is this important? A couple of things here. Obviously, clearly hearing the conversation, even with plexi dividers, the COVID situation has been a little bit better nowadays, but I'm sure we might end up in other waves, and then we have to make sure that we are ready to do so. Once you are in plexi dividers, obviously, we heard a lot of cases where it's difficult to hear each other, and this update will also definitely help with that. Same situation, spreading out, social distancing is set further from each other. So that means that also if people next to you are speaking, that the sound level is dropped quite a bit. So with this dynamic mix-minus, that should definitely also help in that respect. But then in other applications, for instance, like a city council, speaker desk, so you have a speaker desk here. If you only use the stations here and the speaker is active, he doesn't have any local amplification of what is being said by the chairperson, for instance. In this case, that is also now solved. And also basically councillors hearing each other across the dais is a remark that we heard quite a bit, that this solves dramatically with a conferencing solution. And now that experience will definitely be enhanced further. Courtroom applications, typically less amount of units. If you want to do that with providing the local amplification towards the participants there, typically the distance between units is bigger, so that means that there it's also a huge advantage applying those new smart audio settings. So definitely something to also work upon and have more opportunities in the court space. And then, for instance, training centers where you have hybrid solutions. Obviously, if there is a hybrid person joining, you also want to clearly hear that person from that respect. So let's have a look at an example here, conference room where you have in-room participants, and then you have a couple of remote participants that could be on Teams, WebEx, and Zoom. Obviously, perfectly possible to couple our solution here to those soft codec, but could also be our own Confero solution. In this case, we have a couple of persons speaking to in-room participants, and then there's somebody on the Teams call that has a conversation. Now, everyone will obviously hear the mix of those 3 microphones on the loudspeakers of the persons that are not speaking, but the 2 persons in the room that have their microphone open will now individually receive also a mix of all the open microphones except their own microphone. So that's definitely something that will help from that respect. So it offers a more natural conversation and also improved overall intelligibility for everything that has to do with hybrid meetings, and also helps in some room layouts as well. Now, the second thing that we added on top of that, so you have the dynamic mix minus, so all the loudspeakers stay on at all times, is that we also have applied gain sharing. So nowadays, in our solution, we have auto gain reduction. And that means, in this case, that 3 microphones are open, that there will be a reduction applied depending on the setting here on all those microphones that are open. Now, what we've done and added to the solution now is that we apply a gain sharing principle. So that's basically a Dan Dugan-like algorithm that has been integrated into the Plexus architecture, and basically gives us the capability to have an overall gain that stays constant, but really looks to the individual inputs on the microphone level. So in this case, if this person's microphone is open, but he's not really speaking or participating in the conversation, you see that the red is really reduced. If the situation changes that the first microphone stops speaking, then the gain of the second one will be increased and the first one will be limited, but the overall gain stays similar. And then same principle, if that second person starts to talk louder, you will get even more gain. And the principle of gain sharing obviously is that the output stays constant. So that's something that we've added. As mentioned, it's based on a Dan Dugan algorithm. Total gain of the active microphones always remain constant. And then basically you're amplifying the microphone of the active speaker and also reducing open microphones where nobody participates to the conversation actually. In general, this has the advantage that you have an improved gain before feedback, and also less background noise pick up from microphones that stay open or persons that don't speak at a certain point in time. So that's we believe that's really a very good enhancement that is also provided on the solution as well. Now, the dynamic mix minus, where is it available? It's available on all wired Plexus products that use our Confero software release. So that's valid for the Flush Mount series, our Confidia T tabletop series, and then also the new Flex wired and our Unicos stations. So basically, as you have the firmware that is going to be released on the website as of next week, this functionality becomes available right away. It's basically available on all the internal microphone modes. So that means whether you're using direct speak or a request to speak list, that same dynamic mix minus and gain sharing will be applied on the open microphones. So on all the internals of the microphone mode. A second thing that we've added is DSP mode. So in order to have the capability to integrate with DSP designs, we have created a specific mode where the microphones were all active, and those are dynamically routed on fixed Dante channels. So each seat has its own assigned Dante channel. Via Dante, you can bring that to your DSP. Basically, the DSP, whether it's a biamp, QSys, Clear One, Extron, whatever DSP that you want to use, you can basically do microphone gating, processing, mixing, creating your individual loudspeaker channels to send back to the units. So basically, full flexibility there. You can DSP it to that, and then basically bring the individual loudspeaker channels back to the individual units. So you can create your own mix minuses. Yeah, everything is in the flexibility and the design of the DSP from that point in time. Now, moreover, not only do we offer the flexibility to bring the audio and inject audio on the individual stations, we also have an API available in order to say, okay, if you gate a certain microphone, you can give that signal from your DSP also to the conference solution and also activate the LED of that specific microphone. Moreover, if you assign the units with certain names or use badges to identify persons, whenever you have activated a microphone, also everything that has to do in terms of displaying the name, whether it's on a flex station or on a Unicast station or on a signage application, you will still see who is speaking. So it's really that combination between flexibility in terms of audio signal and processing, and then still have the capabilities and the tools that a normal conference solution still offers. So that means that you also can use it for metadata tagging, time stamping, etc., etc. All the good things that we already know from a conferencing solution. Again, all those products or that microphone mode, let's say, the routing mode, is available on all the Plixus powered products that run the Confero software. One thing to mention here is that there is a maximum of number of microphone units to be used, and that's 32. So basically, individual microphone signals will be available on fixed Dante channels per seat. So that's the first routing mode that we've added, and then we have added also a second hybrid mode where we make a combination of a mix minus channel, but still have the combination to connect either external speakers or have individual inputs also of a microphone, so that you have the capability to take care of that in your routing scheme as well, so that the individual microphone goes to the hybrid solution as well, and that you can project the sound in your external amplification or speakers PA system. So that's an additional routing that we've provided as well as an option. So basically available for Confero installations or for soft codec installations, where you can make use of that in the Confero wired solution. So that's the overview of the different audio routing modes that we will currently have in our solution. So you have the normal, the distance conferencing, which is really a mix minus on the aux in and out. Then you have external equalizing or putting a mixing board in between. So that's really in processing in between. Then you have the new hybrid conferencing solution, which is basically a little bit an additional one on top of the distance conferencing to make combination and injection of microphones and loudspeaker solutions in the amplification. So that's really typical for those smaller installs where you don't have a DSP involved. Then you still have that flexibility in terms of routing from that perspective. And then the last one that we've added, which I just explained, is the DSP mode to give the flexibility to integrate with external signal processing equipment. This is an overview of the web browser application. So it's available as of 7.3 version. Again, will be on the website as of next week. Basically, if you look at the different options, you have the option here to activate your mix minus capabilities. The gain sharing is also by default activated. So that's here, this item on the right-hand side. And then in terms of routing capabilities, that's basically in the standard option here for routing type. And there you have the normal distance conferencing, the new hybrid, external equalizer, and then the DSP mode. For DSP mode, you also have the capabilities, for instance, to select if your microphones or loudspeakers need to be on all the time. And then applying the settings will activate the selected functionality in the Plexus solution. All right, this was a little bit of an overview of what we are about to release. I hope that you're seeing value in that. We truly believe that this is a next step and an advancement of the solutions that we already have in place. Will offer a lot of capabilities. This is only the starting point of the smart audio track that we are doing in development. So in Q2, you will definitely also hear some more advancements in that respect. We'll hear that in the next webinar maybe. But for now, let's have a look if you guys have some questions.
Okay, thanks Didier for this presentation. There are some questions popping up. First one, I think you mentioned already, but maybe good to repeat. When will the version 7.3 be available on the website?
Yeah, so it's about to be released. Normally we have validation is ongoing, so final validation, everything looks fine. So in the course of next week, that should be available on our website. Go to the software updates page and look for the Confero software there. And you'll find out, or you'll find the version there to release it on your Plexus solutions.
With regard to that, maybe also good to answer the question: what about licenses? Do you need any license for that?
Yeah, that's a good question, good point. It's basically included into the Plexus architecture. So it comes with the Confero automatically when you purchase an audio engine or a multimedia engine, both are having those capabilities. So you basically do not need a Confero 360 license. It's already included in the web browser interface of our engines.
Yeah. Then technical question about mix minus. Are these fixed settings for each unit or is it dynamic?
Yeah, so the first mode is really on the Plexus architecture itself. That's dynamically creating individual loudspeaker channels for the microphones that are open. So it's basically a combination of the microphone modes that we already know, direct speak, group mode, first in, first out. So those channels are created based on the microphones that are active, and their individual mix minus channels are sent to those loudspeakers. So that's the internals of the Plexus. And then the next one is where we hand off the routing and signal processing to a DSP. That's more a routing mode where we send microphones to individual Dante's channels.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And indeed, also then the logic question comes: will this be eventually available for wireless units?
Wireless is still something that we're working on. Obviously, we do also have the plan to work on that, but that's something that will come on a later phase. But dynamic mix mining is definitely also something that we look at from that perspective.
Okay. And then about the DSP mode, I think I didn't understand if we can send the single mic to a single Dante channel, or if we can send also a group of microphones to a single Dante channel.
So it's basically as it is now. If you select DSP mode, what we basically do is each seat unit microphone signal will be assigned to an individual Dante channel. If you want to do DSP on that and create groups that's possible, and then you basically send those loudspeaker channels and the processed signals back into the Plexus architecture. So it's a fixed mapping of microphones going out on Dante channels and vice versa, fixed Dante channels that are sent back to the individual loudspeakers on the Plexus architecture, with a maximum up to 32 stations.
Okay, the questions popping in. Maybe one other is about changing the gain settings for each microphone. Is it still possible?
Individual gain settings, you mean? Yeah, that's still a capability that sits on top of that, actually.
When you said maximum 32 microphones, is it on a daisy chain or is it on the entire setup?
It's on the entire setup, so it's the entire solution. So it's really targeted to these small to medium sized projects where you want to do DSP automatic mode kind of Vox situations in your DSP designs.
Okay, thanks. Then another question about echo cancellation. Are we incorporating any acoustic echo cancellation natively in the dynamic mixed minus modes to prevent feedback loops? Or for that, will we continue to require an external DSP mode?
So basically, the individual channels are created on the Plexus network itself. If you want to apply more advanced echo cancellation, that's still in an external DSP.
Yes.
But good question.
Okay. Thanks. So that's about the question part. I would like also to thank you, Didier, and everyone for joining this webinar. We hope you found it valuable, and we hope you are as excited as we are about these new smart audio capabilities. It was great to hear you and your feedback, and we really appreciate you being here. If you would have any additional questions, do get in touch with us. Both the recording and slides will be made available to you after the webinar ends. That's for it for me.
All right. Thanks everyone for your time. I hope it was valuable. Next step in making sure that our solutions get even more relevant into the market. Glad you were here. Spread the word, and also make sure to follow us on our social media, LinkedIn and Facebook, to stay up to date on both product updates, but also nice projects that we do, etc., etc. So thanks for joining, and see you next time. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.